Because up next, it is indeed Albie Amankona. Take it away, Albie.
Absolutely. So earlier on this week, James Daly, the Conservative MP for Bury North, caused outrage when he suggested that the children who were struggling in his constituency were struggling as a result of bad parenting. Now, look, for an MP that's got a majority of, I think, 105, it's probably not the best way to speak about his constituents. But what is so controversial about saying bad parenting can lead to bad outcomes for children? Because let's face it, we're all a product of our upbringing, and the simple fact of the matter is the science backs up what James is saying. We know that the most crucial stage of child development is in the first 1,001 days, the first couple of years of a child's life. And who is responsible for the first few years of a child's life? The parents. We've got to start talking about parents, family structure and geography, because these issues are the key issues when it comes to childhood development and childhood outcomes, and we simply cannot wish that away. We've got to stop having a go at people for merely highlighting problems. James might not have used the language that I would have used, but he highlighted an important problem. We've got to put families at the heart of government policy, because the future of our nation and the future of our children depend on it. So, lots of people were pretty outraged by what James Daly, the Conservative MP for Bury North, had said earlier on this week. I'm going to come to you first, Ben Leo, because you're one of the two parents on the panel. Do you think it's controversial to say that bad parenting leads to bad outcomes for children?
No, I think he was quite right, and anyone who cries in objection is just being a bit of a snowflake, to be honest. Where else is a child going to learn about manners and decorum and how to behave other than at the home? Or in the home, rather. You've got parents who these days, unfortunately, just dump their kids in front of Netflix, feed them sugary rubbish for tea. I remember even when I was at school, in primary school, you had some kids coming in for breakfast, eating crisps for breakfast. So, unfortunately, we have probably a myriad of issues which culminates in bad parenting. One being you've got kids having kids, and two, you've got parents who don't break the cycle from their own poor child, I was about to say rubbish, but poor childhood, because actually bad parents, it's most of the time not their fault. They're just repeating behaviour that they've seen from their parents in childhood. And actually, if you drill down, you'll probably find that their parents also grew up in the same way. So, no, I completely agree with what he says. A child learns from their parent, and, yeah, the only way to behave is by teaching them right from wrong.
And Nana Aquia, what do you say to people on the left who will say the reason it's more difficult to be a parent today is because George Osborne cut the Sure Start scheme?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true at all. There's so many factors as to why it's difficult being a parent today, and one of them is the childcare aspect of things, and also just the fact that there are fewer people actually having children in this country, and it feels like the facilities just aren't there for parents. So, and also things like school starts at like 8:43 or 8:45 and ends at 3. Most people are still at work, so I think the whole structure of the education system doesn't really help much either. And in terms of parenting, I think there's too many distractions these days, and parents are busy because we've all got to go out and work. So, seeing as we've all got to go out and work, then you can't spend as much time with your kids. And I think a lot of parents feel guilty about that, and then they're told they're bad parents because of it. And I don't know, I think, obviously, bad parenting is not a great outcome for the children, but I don't think that the parents are fully to blame because of that. I think there's loads of other factors.
There are other factors. Well, a lot of people say, Benjamin, parents can't spend time with their children because they've got to work such excessive hours, and the reason they've got to work such excessive hours is because the cost of living is so high, and the reason the cost of living is so high is because the cost of housing is so high. So what can the government actually do to solve this problem instead of just throw money at the problem?
Well, first of all, I think the reason that this feels appalling as a comment, when obviously there's truth that bad parents are going to have bad kids potentially, is that this is an MP speaking. So I don't really think it's his job to throw around insults. It's his job to come up with answers to make it more easy for lots of parents to do it. But I found this a really interesting question because, you know, I've talked about this before, but the first 1,000 days of my life, I lived with my 2 heroin-addicted parents in a council estate who were violent and drug dealers, and they've been to prison for both of those things. And then I was taken in by my grandparents, who were successful and calm, and that changed the entire course of my life. So if there's not evidence there that good parents can completely transform from bad parents, you know, I think I'm living proof of that, although some viewers might say I've not turned out that well. But I think I think the problem is that there are so many factors, and this is the other point I was going to make, is that, you know, what does bad parenting look like? Because you assume that you agree on it. Neglect your child, that's bad parenting. But I also actually think that controlling helicopter parents, pushy middle-class mums that try and control their kids, don't let them be themselves, you know, push them to work hard but in a way that's actually really damaging to them. I think that's also bad parenting when they're overzealous.
Great point.
Darren, what do you make of all of this?
I think pushy middle-class parents sounds like a good thing, actually, and we should clone them and have many more of them. I think that's a brilliant
Do you wish you had pushy middle-class parents?
well, I'm not sure. Maybe not the middle-class thing, but my mother is definitely... she's not shy, is she, Nana?
No, she's fabulous.
I actually think, look, Miriam Cates, I saw she tweeted about this, right?
Did.
She received a torrent of abuse. You would think that she had just said, we need to bring back Chairman Mao and sort of indoctrinate the next generation of children in some form of camp. But I can't understand why it's controversial, Albie, to turn around and say, look, it's really important that we don't make the state sort of assume the role of the parent, because on everything from dentist checkups to a checkup at the opticians, schools are now doing them. Like, that, to me, is surely the role of the parent.
When you've got kids going into reception and they're not potty trained and they can't turn pages of books and they can't do all of these basic things, surely the state has to step in.
Well, of course, at that point, yes, you would have to, but you would also, I would hazard a guess, have to get social services involved.
I was going to say, you'd want, I mean, maybe not as draconian as this, but I'd suggest, off the cuff, saying they shouldn't be having kids. They shouldn't be in control of children.
Well, that's easier said than done. Why doesn't the dad take responsibility for that? You ain't getting a kid without him.
Whoever,
not
mother,
taking
father,
protection.
your child should not be going to school not potty trained. My kid was potty trained at 10 or 11 months.
My little Ivory took a bit of time.
Yeah.
All right.
Bless him. I'd be like, what's that over there?
I'll be delighted you've said that.
Right. Now,